Hey guys, Ronan Will. We are back with the final episode of the first set of Star Trek miniatures for the expansion pack from Star Trek Away Mission. Jeez. This is Star Trek Away Mission from the Kirk box. I don't think I ever actually mentioned what the name of the box is. But it's the Kirk set, which included, of course, Kirk, Chekhov, Bones, and the star of the show, Spock. At least he was my favorite character in most of the show that I've watched, which is only season 1, so we'll see. I actually don't know anything about Chekhov. If you watched my previous video about Chekhov, you'll know that. So, we'll get right into it. We're starting real quick. I did a wolf gray and plate mail on the flooring, followed by just pure plate mail on the nameplate, which will eventually be added with a little bit of what will first probably be electric blue. It does become electric blue later as well. But yeah. So, Spock. Spock is one of the original characters. He is seen all the way back in the first episode in 1966, The Man Trap, from the original series. He was played by 3 different actors, it looks like. The, of course, original from 1966 to 2013. Very important to note. Leonard Nimoy played Spock for almost the entire time that Spock has been around. He even did a cameo in the 2009 Star Trek movie that basically rebooted the whole franchise. Getting back to the painting real quick, I did some matte black for the boots, and for his pants, it is Necrocloak. Again, not much different than the other 3 characters, and will probably not be different from any of the other characters that come from the Federation. At least classic Federation. The newer guys, I forget. I think I painted them with like black because they mostly wear black or very, very dark gray. Anyway, speaking of the 2009 movie, the one who played Spock from that universe is Zachary Quinto, whatever. And he played Spock up until 2016. And then with the newest show, which I mentioned in the Kirk episode, which is Star Trek. Can't remember what was it called. I really am struggling here, guys. I haven't watched it, so I could not tell you what the name of the show is. Into the Darkness. No, that was the movie. Star Trek Beyond, like Batman Beyond. No, Star Trek Discovery. He was in. Somebody played him. I feel like that's wrong, though. Oh, Strange New Worlds. That's what it's called. Jeez. Anyway. So, Ethan Peake now plays him from 2019 onwards. Unfortunately, Leonard Nimoy has passed away, which means we can't get any great cameo like he did during the 2009 movie where he came and revealed that he's Spock from the original series, and the Spock from the new series is kind of getting his whole life destroyed because of stuff that happened in the original series. It's the newer stuff is really crazy, guys. Anyway, so Spock is actually kind of an interesting character because he is not pure human, unlike the last 5 guys that I've painted. Spock is actually part human, part Klingon. He's 50-50. Okay, going real quick back here, we did some electric blue for the shirt. We did black for the blaster, the phaser. We did wolf gray for the body of the phaser. And we are now using some plate mail for just the highlighting. And then we are now on some gold. That's going to be the little Federation logo on his lapel, as well as eventually his cuffs on his shirt. I then go back with a little bit more of the Necrocloak for the collar, and yeah, there we go. There's the gold on his cuffs there. Anyway, so Spock is part human, part Klingon. Klingon are the first species humanity ran into, encountered, became friends with, whatever you want to say, in the Star Trek universe. And they, once humanity discovered warp technology, it's all shown in the first, no, was it the first movie? It might have been the first Star Trek movie. I don't really know. I've never watched the first one. I've seen Khan, Wrath of Khan, and I've seen The Search for Spock. Wrath of Khan is literally where they kill off Spock, but he comes back in the next movie. It was just a flesh wound. Quite literally, he dies, and halfway through the second movie, the third movie, he comes back. So interesting thing about the Klingons is the Vulcans, is that they actually do not show any emotion, and they have a split race. So their race was very warlike, kind of more intense human, I guess. Apparently, their emotions they felt their emotions more heavily. They also have some type of psychic link power ability, and which caused a whole lot of issues. They were warlike, so they decided to basically suppress their emotions and become more driven by logic. Hence the most common phrase that Spock always said, "That's illogical, Captain." But as a result, half the Vulcans became Vulcans, and there is another part of the species that is called Romulans. They seem to be more warlike, and if I'm not mistaken, they actually embrace their emotions. So, go figure. Last thing I'm doing here before we start highlighting, of course, is the dark toner, or the shader, or whatever you want to call it. I put that on way too thick. Holy cow. But the nice thing is it dries, and you just can remove it or paint over it. So, Spock also is one of the few characters that have supernatural powers. Although, again, I don't know if you would consider it supernatural powers, since all Klingons all Vulcans have these abilities. He can do what's called a mind meld. which means he can meld his mind with somebody else's to feel emotions, or their emotions, or get information from them. In the scene where he dies, he actually mind melds with Bones, the doctor, and implants his memories into the doctor so he can live on or be found later on in the next movie, even though his body was destroyed. It's a really complicated, like, the movies get complicated. The show gets complicated, but the movies are really complicated. Anyway, so you can see I'm mixing up some black and some of the Necrocloak. I am running very low on Necrocloak. I hope I have enough to finish off the rest of this season, which consists of 4 more characters, although I think 2 of them are wearing dresses, so they're not going to need the Necrocloak as bad. I am getting sidetracked like I usually do when I'm talking about this type of stuff. Anyway, so Vulcans also seem to have slightly increased human, like, stronger than average human strength. He can be seen several times, like, overpowering humans and Kirk and all this type of stuff. The power of their logic also tends to act kind of as a superpower sometimes, so they can outthink the situations and, like, find the best solutions and all that fun stuff. But yeah, a plot line that was dropped fairly early in the series was that Spock had a relationship with a human female, which was the communications officer, Lieutenant Uhura. So that's a fun little side thing. It only comes up like maybe once or twice in the entire first season so far. Again, have not finished the first season, but it's kind of just a weird, like, when they feel like adding it as a plot point, they throw it in there, but it's very subtle, like, for most of it, which I guess for the time makes sense because it was a lot of, like, controversy. Star Trek, for its time, was actually very revolutionary. It was one of the first TV shows to have a mixed cast, aka black actors, white actors, Asian actors. Like, they were all mixed together, you know, they were all on screen working together. And in a way, I mean, what a concept for back in the day, and what a show to do it, because it was such a political, like, it was such a political no-no to have, like, you know, equal opportunity for different races and whatnot. We'll just ignore the other problematic section of, like, you know, the female characters are very much the female character. Like, that is their defining characteristic. At least for most of them. Again, I haven't gotten that far. If I remember from what I've watched, Uhura is the only one that really stands out. Mostly because she is in every episode as a communications officer, and she has more than just I'm the girl going on, you know. But there are technically 3 main female characters, which did not know up until I started watching the series. But again, Uhura is the main one that gets the most screen time and does the most, like, for being that time, where the assistant to the doctor is also a female. Her main thing is, like, she's pining after the doctor in an episode, or her husband, who she apparently was married or engaged with, he's disappeared and they found him after 5 years, and she's trying to figure out what happened to him because he's acting differently. You know, like, it. The female characters are mostly, like, treated as set pieces or story arcs. It's such a weird concept, especially nowadays. Like, you couldn't possibly get away with some of the stuff that happens on the old Star Trek nowadays with the characters and their interactions with each other. Yeah. Let's move back to, like, the painting. So, I did a couple of different shades of gray on the pants. I moved on to the shirt, which got a new touch-up of electric blue, followed by a mixture of void blue and electric blue. And now I'm adding the void blue on top, just for that, you know, that high highs. So, sorry, now I'm adding that. Before I was just adding the mixture. To be honest, most of the time you guys can pretty much, if you're using these as just simple painting videos, if you're not trying to do, like, super detailed stuff like I tend to like to do, you could pretty much just do base coating and it looks great. Even base coating and toning, these guys would look excellent. I'm just a little bit crazy, so I add a lot of shading and highlighting and changing it all up. Right now I'm just touching up on the silvers, and now I'm doing the skin tone, if I'm not mistaken, and always got to remember to do the cuffs and the badge. To be fair, it gives just a little bit of color that breaks up that blue, which is kind of nice, but it's not the end of the world if it didn't pop as much as I just made it. Alright, now the skin tone. And I don't know why, I kind of went with a more yellowy skin tone for Spock. I think it was more of just trying to differentiate. Again, his skin is very pasty in the show. It's a very light skin tone compared to, like, Kirk and everybody else. So it makes sense that I'm trying to brighten him up or keep him nice and bright. Unfortunately, the yellowiness is pretty much the only way to do that. And then I add a little bit more white or brightness of the skin tone to make it even brighter. Because the yellowiness on his body isn't bright enough. It also is not that bad, I promise, guys. In the actual, like, model itself is not super yellowy bright. But here he kind of he's getting close to Simpson shading. I'm still trying to learn the faces. The faces are hard, man, because the faces contour, and technically you're supposed to do like a darker tone for the lower spots of the contouring and lighter for the higher spots, but it's also really hard to tell. I don't know. Again, it's a lot of learning curves on this, but honestly, he doesn't look too bad. He's kind of starting to get that like Warhammer look to it. I'm sure if I played with it a little bit more, I probably could get it to look like the Warhammer guys. This is just some touch-ups on the base coat of the skin tone that I saw, that I missed, or that started peeling because of overhandling. Alright, so this is the hair. The hair on Spock is rough because it is basically black. He's got black hair, and there's nothing really you can do about it. You can. I think I end up going with some necro cloak just to brighten it up a little bit, but yeah, he doesn't really get any better with his hair. Black hair, it kind of sucks when you're doing miniatures, because there's not much you can do unless you do off black, you know. So like again, the gray necro cloak is kind of where I end up going with this. Speaking of which, of course, I have to touch up the collar again because those damn collars are a nightmare. Then, come on. Yeah, and then I tried defining the neck a little bit more, which I think that's about all I can really do here. Realistically, like he is, yeah, I do a little dry brushing, trying to change up the hairstyle a little. He kind of gets a bluish tone, which, if any, did I even record one of those? I feel like I did a Venom years ago, about a year or two ago, probably longer than that, with Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I used the concept of his skin tone is black, so I do blue highlights to mimic the 1990s Venom from the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon series, which turns out amazing. But anyway, and kind of did that kind of work on his hair there. But that will about do it. Last thing we have to do, I of course have to redefine his eyebrows because I somehow painted over them. And now we're going with that nice, well, this is not the electric blue. This is wolf blue that I use, or wolf gray that I use there. And then I end up actually going over it later on in electric blue again, just because it's not bright enough in my opinion. So if you notice on the final product, you'll see that he's a little bit brighter. His name is, and edging is a little bit brighter, but yeah, he's very dark there. Alright, let's get into the final stage, guys. Ready? And there he is. Yeah, as you can see, the stage is electric blue, not wolf gray. But this is Spock. I actually really like the way he turned out compared to like the skin tone on Kirk and Chekhov. I think it was just because I was going for a super pale skin tone. But, yeah, that will do it. Till next time, guys. Ronan will. Later.